Okay, so let's talk about the elected presidency. I mean, if you could extricate yourself from it for a while, right? So, what do you think about it as an institution? Do you think it's useful? Do you think that maybe it's better to go back to one where it's not elected, where it's selected, so that it can perform the ceremonial functions better? Because ultimately, I guess the biggest uh, function of the president, which is not in the constitution per se, right, in terms of powers, which is to be the unifying figure for the country, right? So what are your thoughts on the institution itself?
Well, I think every political institution should evolve in the light of experience. All right. And the elected president, should also evolve. How do we go about electing the president? What should the powers of the president be? What should be the role of the Council of Presidential Advisors? So I think it needs to evolve, and it should be evolved in the light of experience. What are the difficulties? What are the negative consequences? So there are some academics who say it is not fit for purpose. All right. So let's examine that. But as far as this election is concerned, the rules are there. So I think we should. There was a commission set up to review, and as a result, there were some changes made. So I think it is worth thinking about this, but we must go back to the fundamental reason why an elected president. And the fundamental reason was to safeguard our reserves and to safeguard the integrity of certain parts of the public service. Keep in mind, so we have to have a discussion. Is that important? I think so. I think so because the reserves of Singapore are of strategic importance to Singapore. Our reserves is a defense in times of war. You only have to go back to the example of Kuwait being invaded by Iraq. Do you remember that?
I don't. 1990. Yeah.
That's important, and I hope the day will never come, but we have to remember that. All right, Kuwait was liberated because they had reserves to pay the Americans to help them liberate their country, and they had to rebuild the country. Secondly, we need the reserves because our economy is very vulnerable to global developments. 2008 financial crisis, pandemic. If we get no reserves, how are we going to save jobs? How are we going to cushion the impact on the lower income? And then thirdly, our reserves are very important in terms of instilling confidence in the value of the Singapore dollar. So if you are clear that we have to save money, we have to build up our reserves because they are of strategic, critical importance to Singapore, then next question is how?
Right.
All right. So the why is more important than the how. Once you understand why, then you should figure out how. All right. So how is because if we have a bad government who just wants to spend the reserves, what is the check? Before you had the elected president, there was no check. All right? If there was no check, the reserves would be gone in no time. So if you want to have a check, what is the best way of checking? All right? That's why I talk about the need for independence. Because if we have a government that is not trustworthy, who wants to raid the reserves, an independent president will say no. Now, the government can try to override the president. He's got to go to parliament and get two-thirds majority in parliament to override the veto of the president. All right? So these are the kind of reasoning that we keep in mind if we try to design, a better model of the elected president.
Right. Thank you. So I think that's useful. The why is more important than the how. So the why for you is more relevant than ever, right? Safeguarding
Yes.
the yeah. Okay. Thank you.